All right, next video for our safety certification is going to deal with these. These are drill presses. Part of making this tray is that you're going to create pilot holes. Pilot holes are kind of the area that we're going to center punch or mark where we're going to be drilling holes. It makes it easier for later when we go to join the two pieces together with a nail, we know right where it goes. Okay? So before we get started, I'm going to take off my watch and my wedding ring. Don't have to worry about hair with me. I got my closed-toed shoes. I am good to go. Actually, the only other thing I'm going to do, even though it's not close to the drill press, I really worry about anything getting caught in the blade, or the bit, I should say. So I'm going to take that off. All right, so let's start with the pieces. In the video where you cut with the bandsaw with Mr. Harris, you made your 6-inch pieces and you made your 5-inch pieces. Before we even hit the drill press, we're going to need to make sure that we center punch or mark where we're going to be going. So we're going to use our carpenter or contractor square here. It's basically set up with a ruler for our 12. They're all 12-inch ones that we use. The biggest thing you got to know with measuring in the shop is how to get to 16ths. We use a lot of fractions. Okay, so we're going to do the long pieces first. On the example I showed you before, we just need to mark a hole that's going to be in the center. We want to be as accurate as possible. So this is a 6-inch piece, and I'm sure if I asked you how far halfway is to 6, you would say 2, and I'd say that's wrong. It's 3 inches. Okay, just seeing if you're listening. So I'm going to take my contractor square, and I'm going to loosen it up, and I'm going to slide it to 3 inches. You can see it's here. Now, just a couple twists on this thing is all you need. I'm going to make the 90-degree flat little fence here flush at 3 inches. So I'm going to take my carpenter square, I'm going to mark it flush against the wood. I'm just going to take a pencil because it's easy to take away when we go to sand. I'll mark a nice mark there. Okay. Nice thing is you got 2 pieces. Once you got one, it's really easy just to mark the other. Okay, so I got that. Now we're going to have to go in. We have 1/2-inch wood, so we need half of a 1/2 inch. So that would be 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to scroll, loosen this up a little bit, take my contractor square down to 1/4 of an inch. So the way I do it is I will start at 1 inch. I'll go to half. I know that's a 1/2 inch. And half of a half is a 1/4 inch, which is that next long line right there. Wrong way. We'll tighten that up. And now we're going to go in from the bottom of the wood. Again, keep it flush and flat, just like that. We'll make a mark. Move on both pieces. So when we say we're going to punch or center a marking, that's what it looks like. That's going to help us on the drill press. We're going to go right through that spot. Okay? So that's our long pieces. Pretty easy. The short pieces, we're going to do the same part right away. So this is 5 inches. What's half of 5? Good. I'm glad you said 2.5. Okay? So we're going to loosen this up. Actually, what I'm going to do first, I already have it at a 1/4 inch. I know ballpark of where half is. I can look at a piece of wood and figure out half is going to be somewhere in here. So I'm going to make my mark real quick. I'll do it on both pieces. Okay? I know that's somewhere near half. So now I'm going to actually find half. So I'm going to loosen this up. 1 inch, 2 inches. And now we need halfway between 2 and 3. 2.5, which is right on that long line there. Okay, let's see how close I was to approximating center. Good. I can see my line is across it. There. So I was somewhat close. And over here I was somewhat close, which is perfect. So now I have my center punch. I know exactly where to go. Now on the side pieces, we are also going to need to make sure that these are fitting into the wood at both heights, top and bottom. So we're going to go down 1 inch on both of these. And then we're going to go up 1 inch on both of these. So I need to set this at 1 inch. So I'm going to loosen it down to 1 inch, tighten it up. And now I'm going to go from the bottom and the top on each one of these. So I make it flush, 1 inch here. Other side, 1 inch. And then I flip it around. I'm going to do 1 inch. And I'm going to do 1 inch over here. Now, I already have it set. So I'm going to do the other piece right away too. 1 inch. This is also where you could have someone help you. They can hold the contractor square for you. And you can make the marks. Mr. Harris and I like to do that a lot where one of us holds the others. And then we do the work. So we have both hands available. wherever we need to, and the other one is holding the other person's tool to make sure that it works successfully. Okay, now that we got those marks, now we're going to go back to that 1/4 inch, and we're going to mark all 4 of these. Actually, there's 8 of them, 2, 2, 2, 2. So again, I'm at 1 inch. I want to go to half. Half of a half is that next long line. And most of these have tape on them so we know which station they're at. I'm using the green station. Most of these are right near that 1/4 inch, and it kind of helps. So now I got them both here. The nice thing is they're close enough that I can just make one line across them. Cross them. Cross them. And cross. And again, we're using pencil because this is all going to need to be sanded later. So I'm going to make sure it's good. All right. Now, before I move on to anything else, you can see that my marks are perfect. They're pretty darn near perfect. I'm going to put my tool away before I continue on. So again, these go on the cart on the side. They're a measuring tool. I'll put it back at the right station. There we go. And now we're going to move over to the drill press. Whew, what a travel. Okay, so on our drill press, this is the tool. This is the part that adjusts going up and down. Okay, the lever that adjusts the drill bit or the drill press. This is the chuck. Okay, and whenever you need to loosen the chuck, you have a chuck key. I'll show you ours. We have it tucked in here. Okay, the chuck key is the final piece. So you can hand tighten something till you can't tighten anymore, but to have your drill bit completely tightened down, you need the chuck key. So the chuck key kind of fits in these holes, the chuck holes, which sounds like chuckle, makes me giggle. So you put it in, and then you can twist with the wheel and axle kind of working there in tandem to loosen up or tighten a bit. Mr. Harris and I will help you guys put any bits into the chucks as we work through. So this is a 1/8 inch bit. This is what we're going to use for this project. So you insert the bit up into the chuck. You make sure it's centered. You tighten your chuck hand tight as much as you can. Like I said, then you bring out the chuck key and you tighten it all the way. Tuck that in here. We have just a little hole here that it sits in, so it's out of the way. There we go. So we have our tabletop. Okay. We have the bit, we have the chuck, and then you basically have the stand here. Inside are the belts that rotate that adjust the speed. Again, Mr. Harris and I already set the speed for this. Okay. So now that we have the right bit with the right project, we're ready to go ahead and drill through. So the first thing we normally have to do before we do any work is we make sure that we have the table height adjusted to the right spot. It could go as low as here, but if we put the wood in there and we bring the bit all the way down, you can tell that doesn't work. So we're going to bring the table all the way up close to the top of the stock, which is right about there. And the other thing you want to do is make sure that you tighten away on the back. And you want to make sure that the bit, when it goes all the way down through the table, it goes through that hole. We don't want to make any holes in the table or break the bit. Bits are the thing that makes a difference on what you're going to be working with. Okay. Next, we're going to lay our stock on the table without the drill bit running. We're going to bring down the lever to make sure that our drill bit goes right in that punch, right where we made the crosshairs. So now that I know I have that exactly where it is, I'm going to use my left hand to clamp this down. You can also use a clamp if you have really big projects that you need to hold down, but this is a small piece. With a small bit, we should be okay using our own hand pressure here. So I'm going to clamp this down. I'm going to turn on the drill press, make sure the bit's going at full speed. And now, firmly holding down with my left hand, I'm going to go ahead and push through that punch mark. And as I go, I can feel the pressure pushing back on the wood, and then eventually I feel it pop through. Once it's through, again, make sure you're firmly holding down with your left hand. Slowly bring the bit back up, turn the machine off, put the dust in the ground so we can sweep it later, and we punched our hole right through. That's what we want. So I'm going to show you again one more time. There's no reason you need to see me do all the holes. I just want to make sure you understand the routine you're going to be doing for every single one of them. I'm going to use a 5-inch piece now just to change it up. So again, I'm going to do one of the side holes, and I'm just going to bring the bit down. I'm going to see, I'm off a little bit. So I'm just going to adjust it without the bit running. There we go. We're right at that center punch. loosen it back up. Left hand holding firmly. Turn on, let the drill press come to full speed. Go through the wood, not super fast, just take your time. Feel it punch through. You'll actually feel the bit kind of like push through the wood. Come up slowly and turn it off. Once you get really good with it, you might potentially be able to keep the drill bit running as you go around to spot, but the safest way to do it is how I just showed you, where you can go one hole at a time. So I'll finish the rest of these on my own time, and then I'll be ready to move on to the next step, which will be over at the router, where we're going to make this have a little bit of an appeal to it so we can assemble it later. If you got any questions, see myself or Mr. Harris.